Welcome to today's Global Connections program. I'm Bill Miller. Today we're going to take a look at a really interesting program called Play Ball Puerto Rico. My guest has been very involved in this project. Dr. Bernie Strenecky presently serves as a scholar in residence at Western Kentucky University in Bowling Green, Kentucky. He is a member of the diplomatic corps of the country of Barbados. He's an active member of the Prospect Goshen Rotary Club and a member of the board of the United Nations Association of the Kentucky Division, and he was integral in developing the Play Ball Puerto Rico project. As Bernie says, his claim to fame is that he is an original member of Play Ball Puerto Rico, and that his grandson was the one who developed this project, who thought of it, really. And his grandson's named Lawson. Bernie Strenecky, welcome to today's Global Connections program.
Happy to be here.
Great. Glad you're here, Bernie. Let's jump right into it. Let's talk about Play Ball Puerto Rico. What exactly is it? When was it started? Why was it started?
Play Ball Puerto Rico is a Thanksgiving story. Let me tell you a little bit about how it happened. Our family has a tradition every Thanksgiving to find those things that we're thankful for. And 6 years ago, our grandson, who was then in 8th grade, said, "I have a question." And I said, "Okay, tell me all about it. I want to talk about Puerto Rico. I heard that it's been 9 months now, and Puerto Rico was hit by a hurricane, and that was Maria. It still doesn't have electricity. It still doesn't have water. Is that true?" And I said, "Yes." He said, "Well, if the governments of the world can't solve the problem, I'm going to." And anytime a grandfather hears this kind of story, he says, "Yo." I said, "What are you going to do?" He said, "The heart and the soul of Puerto Rico is baseball. And if we're going to help the people of that island, what we must do is we must help the youngsters." And I said, "Okay, how are we going to do it?" He said, "In every community, in every basement, at the end of baseball season, there's equipment. Let's collect gently used baseball equipment, take it to Puerto Rico, find communities that have been devastated, and regenerate their baseball program." Good idea. So we made a trip to Puerto Rico, and I happened to have several Puerto Rican students. I said, "Can you find me a community?" And they said, "We'll find you 100. And so we went ahead, started the program, brought in gently used baseball equipment. And here's the secret. The players in the community receive the equipment, and then in return, they are asked, "What are you going to do to make your community better?" And the whole community gets involved in a community program. So we develop better citizens in the players and better communities through baseball.
The fact that an 8th grader thought of this really should give us all hope. I really believe that someone that young was that concerned about what happened to the people of Puerto Rico, and they were devastated. No doubt about that. Hurricane Maria flattened a large part of the island, but baseball is certainly a logical topic. Baseball is very popular in the Caribbean, the Dominican Republic, Cuba, and really in many areas of the world too. You look at Japan and many others. So it's not just isolated, but it's a great way to help the kids in that area. And before I forget, let me mention that your website is www.playballpr.com. So we encourage people to go to that. And now you're a 501c3, they can donate. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay, very good. You started out with the concept. You can't do it all alone, obviously. Who are some of your major partners?
We're very, very, very fortunate. When we started the program, relatively soon, we're Louisville-based. And if you wanted to find a partner who really, really understands baseball, and you're in the whole United States, never mind Louisville, I bet you would say Louisville Slugger would be an interesting partner. So we were fortunate enough to get Louisville Slugger on, and they responded by saying this: what can we do to help? What can we do? And so we brought them on, and it went on from there. The next thing, when you do this kind of program, you must have local support. So we were able to find the largest youth baseball league in all of Puerto Rico, called ACAPOR, which is the American Congress of Puerto Rico. 52 different leagues, and they helped us identify it. Well, next, what would happen if you had a vendor from Puerto Rico? And we did. A baseball wholesaler, retailer of equipment who said, we want to help. Colón Deporte. And they said, yep, we're there. And Rotary came on base with us. And then we were fortunate enough to get the United Nations Association, one right after another. And now we have a whole conglomerate.
And you look at those organizations that you mentioned a minute ago. The Louisville Slugger is world famous for its baseball bats. They're produced in Louisville, Kentucky. But you also mentioned Rotary International. Of course, Rotary, which you and I both are members of Rotary Clubs, and that is a worldwide organization, one of the largest in the world, with about 1.4 million Rotarians in over 40,000 clubs now, I think it is. And they're in just about every country of the world. There's a Rotary Club, or in some cases, hundreds of Rotary Clubs, depending on where it is. But if our viewers would like any information on that, they can go to www.rotary.org to get information. Then you also mentioned the United Nations Association. And of course, the United Nations Association of the USA is it's a large nonpartisan foreign policy association with 200 operations, or 200 chapters around the country. And if our viewers would like more interest or more information on them, they can go to www.unausa.org. But let's talk a little bit about what you would like to do with this and where you would like to go with this project. Is it just going to be in Puerto Rico? Are you going to take it worldwide? Are you going to take it around the United States, or what will you do with it?
It started in Puerto Rico, and one of the reasons is that Lawson had the idea. He said, you know what, Grandpa? Puerto Ricans are American citizens. They're a part of us, and we kind of ignore them. We just don't respond. And so we started there. Perfect place to start. Well, all of a sudden, we received a request from our home state, Kentucky. We've had our share of disasters, all the way from the western half with its tornadoes to the eastern half with its floods. And the people in eastern Kentucky said, would you consider assisting us? And we are now in Floyd County, Prestonsburg, and we came in and restored their baseball program. The high school program we brought in, supplemented their equipment, and got them up and going. So it started in Puerto Rico, now moves on over into the eastern part of our state. Again, in return, what are you going to do? What will the people of that county do after they receive their equipment? Well, it was just a wonderful thing. Every year there is a baseball camp, and anybody in the county can come to the baseball camp as long as they have $55. And the players and the coach said, what we're going to do this year is we're going to give back. And the last camp that was run, anyone in the county or the surrounding counties who wanted to come and learn and play the game can come for free. Some of the kids, the first time they've ever had an opportunity to have instruction, and it was absolutely a very, very, very special kind of piece. Now, it even gets more interesting. Over in the western part of our state, in Mayfield, they had multiple disasters. So one of the things that happened is within Rotary, we have a group of high school students, Interact students. And they said, you know what? We want to get involved in Play Ball Puerto Rico. That's what we would like to do. We here in Western Kentucky would love to help the youth in Eastern Kentucky. And they took gently used baseball equipment and moved it from the western part to the eastern part. Well, one of our students made a presentation at the Kiwanis Club. And the Kiwanis Club said, well, I think we want to help too. And here's the kicker. The Interact students said that everyone helped us. Everyone assisted us here in Western Kentucky, and now it's our turn. It's our turn to help the people of Eastern Kentucky. So the people of Western Kentucky, they had their own problems. Through the Kiwanis Club, made a charitable donation, and we're now repairing some of the fields that have been done. It's very interesting.
That is
Isn't it?
great. They're doing that, and we're going to learn more about it in just a minute when we get right back from the break. Well, you're watching Global Connections Television, which is a privately funded, independently produced program. The opinions expressed on Global Connections are solely those of the moderator and his guest. We invite our viewers to go to our website at www.globalconnectionstelevision.com to view previous programs. Also, if you're involved with a PBS or a community access television station, or perhaps an educational institution that has an intra-campus television hookup, or you have a podcast, or you just have a computer, if you like our shows, please feel free to share them. Global Connections Television is provided at no cost as a public service to help us better understand international issues and how they impact our lives. Today, we're taking a look at a very interesting program called Play Ball Puerto Rico that was devised by the grandson of our guest today, and that's Dr. Bernie Strenecky. Bernie, we've been talking about this Play Ball Puerto Rico. It's a remarkable idea, and it came from someone who's about 13 years old or something like that, I guess, 12 or 13, whatever the case might be. But please talk a little more about, before we run out of time here, we don't have a lot of time, but I might mention that the western part of the state of Kentucky was hit by tornadoes. And some communities like Mayfield were flattened almost. I mean, just literally wiped out. And then not too long after that, the eastern Kentucky part of the state, which is mountainous, part of the Appalachian Mountains, had severe flooding and that type of thing. Of course, a lot of the eastern Kentucky counties are some of the most economically deprived in the United States. So it's not a wealthy area. But anyway, I didn't want to interrupt, but just give a little background on that. But before we run out, let me ask you, what has been one of the most momentous events? I know everything's been momentous, I'm sure, but is there one that stands out that just you will remember forever and ever?
Yes, I'll give you two quick ones, Bill.
Okay.
Aguadilla, Northwestern Tip. Again, a community in need. And we gave them their supplies, their equipment, and they said, what are you going to do? We came back and they took the whole community, the fire department, everybody got involved, and they restored a total beach. A beach that had been abandoned, was not utilized. The community came in. We came out on the beach. There were people swimming. There were people fishing. And you said, oh my goodness, magic can happen. I have another one, Scranton, Pennsylvania, which we're involved with the Rotary there in a program called the Challengers Program. And here's the philosophy. If you believe that baseball is a great American pastime, then everybody should play. Through Baseball Puerto Rico, Rotary Club, we are now putting together a baseball team for handicapped children. And what happens here is we got players on wheelchairs, we have players on crutches, we have players who are not observers, but playing the game of baseball. And that is magic.
It certainly is. Now, there's one other project or program you have. It's called Batters Up Initiative. Is that what this is, or is it a different? What is Batters Up Initiative?
Batters Up is a new initiative. A philanthropist came to us and said, "Play Ball Puerto Rico is special. I tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to give you $5,000, and I want you to divide it into 5 special projects. And what we're looking for is, are there innovative ways in which baseball can be used to build citizens and build communities?" So we're now in the process of selecting communities around the country who want to get involved, and they'll have $1,000 to come up with the most innovative way of using baseball with some of the most needy populations. How do you do it? Looking for the best known practices. That's what it's all about. How do you do this? And more importantly, how do you do it successfully? Across the country, Puerto Rico, and who knows where else we're going from here.
That's exactly it. And it's a program, it's a unique program, and it can be copied by many communities in the United States and folks in other parts of the world too. It's not just limited to us, but it's a very, very important one. Well, one thing that you had mentioned, we were talking earlier, that the people in Prestonsburg had invited you, I believe, back to, or you're going to be going back in December for a play. Is that correct? Or talk a little bit about that.
Yeah. After we assisted Floyd County and Prestonsburg, I got an email, and the community said, "We want to pay you back." And I said, "Oh, isn't this interesting?" So listen to this. We're going to have a program called Christmas in the Mountains, and they're inviting our board. They're inviting people from various groups that we're associated with, and the people of Eastern Kentucky are going to share their culture with us. It's the way that they pay back. Let us see how Christmas is celebrated in the mountains of Kentucky. And through doing this, we'll have an opportunity to say a simple phrase: "Thank you for what you do."
And this, again, is something that could be picked up by Rotary Clubs, by United Nations Association chapters. It could be picked up by a variety of other folks who would want to get involved in it and to really make it even a more far-reaching program that impacts the lives of literally millions and tens of millions of kids. And they certainly, in so many areas, well, children, many kids would greatly appreciate it. But Bernie, as you were putting this together, what were some of the biggest challenges that you ran into? Did everyone just jump on board immediately, or did you have to develop this coalition and bring in these partners, or what was the biggest challenge you ran into?
Yeah. How do you find passionate people from various parts of the country, and how do you bring them together, working together? How do you deal with the language? Puerto Rico being Spanish, and most of our board that are not Spanish speakers. Crossing the cultural bonds are very, very, very important. And this is where Rotary plays a role. The Rotarians of Puerto Rico have helped us, United Nations Association. You can't do it by yourself. It's all about building partners. And we have a phrase with them when we say, "Oh, this is getting difficult." Never, never forget, the program is all about the kids. It has nothing to do with us. It has to do with them. And that we have a responsibility, as Lawson says, if we want to help develop areas, help areas recruit, you better start with the kids, because they're our most important resource, and we have a responsibility to help them.
Have you seen a a change, not a change, but have you seen situations where the kids are developing these sportsmanship skills, leadership skills, socialization skills, communication skills, just on across the board that will improve them from an intrapersonal standpoint, but also as a citizen of wherever they may live.
Yeah. We sound like a bunch of philosophers only because we are. The
Right.
concept here is we are not in the business of developing great baseball players. Puerto Rico can do that on their own. You can list them on and on, the great players. So our philosophy is baseball will come, but our primary goal is the development of good citizens. How do you develop citizens? And one of the key ways is, both Bill and I are Rotarians, service above self. We're not asking them to do anything but to serve their community. And I think the serving of one's community is a skill that can be taught. And what we're doing is we're teaching it through baseball. Baseball is a vehicle for the development of citizen and citizenship skills. Baseball, the game, by its very, very nature, is a service-oriented thing. Such words as a sacrifice. Again, in the game of baseball, one is capable of sacrificing themselves, taking turns, good sportsmanship, all of the things that you would want in a citizen can be wrapped up into what is a passion of many, many, many students, the great American pastime, baseball.
It certainly is, and it's a pastime now worldwide in many countries. But again, our viewers can go to your website at playballpr.com to get more information on this very interesting program. And as you mentioned, Puerto Rico can develop many baseball players, has developed many baseball players, along with the Dominican Republic and many other countries too. But I know my involvement in the Dominican Republic, San Pedro de Macorís, bills itself as the baseball capital of the world. And so they're right there together in the Caribbean. But Dr. Bernie Strenecky, I want to thank you so very much for a very interesting and a very informative program. I'm Bill Miller. Thank you for joining us today on Global Connections Television.